Oh, it's still there. The guitar's still there. Amazing. I was living on Worthington Street in Old Trafford. A terrace, back-to-back terraces. And there was no garden at the back and no garden at the front. You were straight on the street. And there was lots and lots of hard-working people living in that area. And I was watching women getting up 7 o'clock in the morning, going out to do their work. Guys getting up 7 o'clock, going out to do their work. And earlier some of them coming home after shifts and stuff. So we had 2 bedrooms, and I went up to the bedroom and I got the guitar and I had my amplifier. I had an AC30 at the time. I haven't got one now because they're far too expensive, but it was a lovely thing. There was a band from Manchester called the JPs, and they became Taxi. And a friend of mine called Chaz Banks, a very close friend from school days, not from school but from school days, was managing them. And they managed to get a deal with Colin Frechter and somebody else, and they would release some stuff in Germany. They went out with supporting Smokey out in Germany and stuff. Anyway, there was 2 lots of Italian brothers, the Polcaros, Phil and Pasquale, and Joe, and the DiBiases. And Phil Polcaro was the guitar player in Taxi, and his brother Pasquale was a drummer. The Polcaros decided that they wanted to move to America. Their dad had been working for either Kitchen Queen or Delusso's, and if any of you know, there used to be a few kind of fractious things going on between those companies at some point. I'm not too clear about it, but there was something like that. Anyway, one day Phil turned up at the house and he said, "George, we're going to America next week, and I just thought that I'd like to give you the AC30 because of all the help you gave us when we were starting off as a band." And I was really kind of moved because it was a lovely thing to do, and that's what we try and do. We try and help other musicians. I've tried to do that, and so it was a lovely gesture from him to me and his family to do that. Anyway, they've gone off to America, and I'm occasionally in contact with them. But that AC30, beautiful, beautiful thing. I had from 76, 77, right through to 81, 82. And sadly, I lost it through no fault of mine. But I'll tell you about that in another time because I think that's enough. So at that point, I went upstairs with the AC30 and wrote "Here Come the Girls." Not long after I'd written "Here Come the Girls," I went over to see Tosh at his house, and there I was, I'd met her a few times at gigs and stuff, but I met his lovely wife at the time, Carol, and I was impressed by the way that she was involved in what Tosh was doing in a very, very positive way. She was just very interested in what he was doing, and that it should be done properly, and that it should help with the parity, that that women should have an equal situation in the world. And I think that also, I'm imperfect, you know what I mean? I fall down all the time, but I do try and make that happen as best as I can. So when she heard "Here Come the Girls," because she'd already heard "Who Is Innocent," I think that she may have encouraged Tosh, or I may be wrong, she may have said, "Why don't you see if they're prepared to go out and tour?" So I thought that among some of my peers and the people I'm working with, they were always as caring or courteous or respectful as to what women did. My mum worked really hard. She was, she had a place the size of Yorkshire, and she was topping and tailing onions to help the family, whilst being a wife and a mum. And there's nothing wrong in that, but she wanted respect for that. I wanted her to feel respected for that. She could dance, she could sing, she could write, she could paint. She was incredibly gifted. She's on the other acoustic guitar, and when I'm playing it sometimes you'll see a picture of her. So I thought that it's important that now and again somebody writes a song and holds their hand up and salutes the fact of what women do. Not because I was a new man or anything like that. It just came through me. It felt like it was an important thing to do. For me, there was a lack of parity. There's absolutely no reason why women shouldn't be making music, women should be running companies, we should be doing all the things that we can do. And for people to suppress them, this is long before. I'm singing about this long before it becomes fashionable to sing about this, because obviously that must have been in my heart. And that was in my heart through my mum and my auntie and the way that they worked and the people around me, and just the way that we believed it was the way to be, and I thought it was the way forward, and hopefully it is, and we all cross the line together like it says in the song. So that's how it came. I'm so glad here come the girls. There was a talk of a tour going ahead with John Cooper Clarke, who, as you all know, unparalleled. You know how amazing he is, we've all seen him and we still love him. And of course the other band were the Freshies, who were really hot property. So off we went in a minibus. I think that John Cooper Clarke travelled in a car with my friend Chaz and his girlfriend at the time, and I think I was in with him. It broke down on the ice and we couldn't get up a hill, so I had to get out and we had to all stand behind and push the car while Chaz was driving, which was very, very funny. But we got to the gig eventually. But you know, so it lasted about 3 or 4 weeks. There's lots and lots of escapades and stuff, and the Freshies were seriously on fire. And of course, whenever we played Linda's Just a Statue, which the only song that really the fans knew about it, they really used to go wild with that. So we had a fantastic time. It was a great grounding to find out how it is to play to people who don't know you, because of course when we were playing in Manchester or in Liverpool, most of the people that came to see us had already seen us before. So this was a very exciting thing to happen, and you learnt lots and lots about how another band operates, because Manchester wasn't really cohesive up until the punk era, when more than 2 bands would set up and tour together, or 3 bands would tour together, which is of course very much like the rock and roll thing in the past, where 3 or 4, 5, 6 rock and roll artists would all tour at the same time. If you'd had 1 hit, you got 1 song. If you'd had 2 hits, you got 2 songs. If you had 5 hits, you had 5 songs, and so on. And the same thing happened when I went to see Hendrix, you know, and the Move were on that tour, and the Nice. And the more songs, the more hits you'd had, the more songs you got to play. And so this was this kind of idea that if you combine 3 artists from a label, it's 1 set of advertising, 1 back line, and 1 lot of fun. I'm so glad. Here come the girls, here come the girls. And the first line comes in, you know, here come the girls. It's a deadly situation. Tosh thought I was saying there's too much interferon, which is like a drug, interferon, right? And it was, is that just mentioned interferon? He didn't mean in a negative way, it's just interferon was one of these drugs, a bit like Agent Orange. They used it on the people in Vietnam. What's interference? I said, no, it's interference. There's too much interference. I'm listening to the station. Too much interference. So I found that there were people openly trying to keep women back at that point. I was really aware of that. It's a deadly situation. With the words, for me, there has to be what I call like in an arch, there's a keystone. And the keystone is the one that's like that, the others are all square, right? And then at this point, the top of the arch, you get this angled, slightly angled stone, and that's what holds the whole arch together. I think that how you come to the sequence of the way and the method to which you write a song, as I've said before, you'll hear me say this over, there aren't any rules. I'm a guitar player first who is able to compose reasonable melodies, right? And when you get a sequence that works of notes, it has its own basis. It's like the keystone to writing the melody, as it is with the words. So that's why people sing a certain part of the song, because it's in the correct place to fulfill that. And with Here Come the Girls, I've just been playing a few chords. for some reason it was. And that's like a complete phrase. That gives you something, for me, that I could sing anything that I wanted over. And it's easier to not clutter it up if you're just playing. I'm just a chordsmith.
Such a sudden revolution and an obvious solution, taking up positions, barely cut incisions, lead instead of leaning, talk instead of bleeding. I'm so glad here come the girls. I'm so glad you got the girls. It's bad for the girls. I'm so glad you got the girls. I've done a lot of watching, wiped away some tears, helping when I can, holding up my hands. I'm still listening to the station, leaking information. I'm so glad here come the girls. I'm so glad here come the girls.
You put a sequence of chords together, that's what happens. You play something, you walk into the room, cold, you've not gone in to write anything. At that point, I was just playing anyway. Whenever I had an opportunity, whenever I had a break, when I wasn't working or on the market or whatever. And so, I mean, I was as guilty as everybody else of wearing my kind of being a guy stuff, but I kind of realised that there was a lot in the combination of both coming together and working on making things better. And women saw things a different way, and they do the #1 gig. That's the top and bottom of it, folks. That's how I look at it. They do the #1 gig.